Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Today we're talking about crowdfunding. We have Jillian Hellman and Chuck Taylor. They're both with Realty Mogul. They're with us here in Studio One. And I'd like to get some tips from you guys because you see a lot of people in this space, in the crowdfunding space. You see a lot of sponsors. You see a lot of investors. You know, what are some things that investors should start off thinking about when they're looking at these crowdfunding sites?
Yeah, I think there's two things that they're thinking about. One is what crowdfunding site are they going to use, right? What company are they going to transact through? And then the real estate consideration. So maybe we just start on kind of the platform. And I think working with a well-capitalized, reputable platform is very, very important. For these investors, they have to work with a platform that's going to be around for the long term, right? And in our case, there's a couple of differences between platforms. We get very involved in the underwriting of transactions. We stay involved for the life of the transaction. And we want to provide our expertise to add value to these private investors. One of the things that I find is many of our investors don't have the time to operate real estate, right? They want to be passive. They don't want to go acquire apartment buildings or acquire single family homes or office or retail or whatever it may be. And they're looking at our platform as a way to save time. So how can we go about saving them time? Not only, stay capitalized and stay in business, but think about underwriting for them, right? Call out risks, call out mitigants. Our chief credit officer was the former chief underwriting officer at JP Morgan for 8 years. So we have someone with 30 plus years of real estate that is approving every transaction that goes up on our platform. And again, calling out what investors should be looking at. And I don't know that every other platform does that. There's a lot of platforms that don't.
Right, so you have some skin in the game. You're involved with these investors through the life cycle of this investment, right? And some of the platforms, tell me if I'm wrong, but some of these crowdfunding platforms, they're really just putting a sponsor together with investors. They're dealing direct. So the site's kind of out of it.
Yeah.
Right, so that's something to really consider up front. And then you mentioned, then you got to really look at the real estate and the actual sponsor, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that you're making an investment, whether it's stocks or bonds or real estate, you got to look at the underlying asset, right? And you got to look at what you're really buying. And one of the things that we're thinking about a lot right now and that I would urge private investors to think about is counter-cyclical real estate, right? So we've been in a boom era for quite some time since the Great Recession. And, we're looking at things like self-storage and, retail that are going to perform well in a downturn, right? And kind of some protection there. As an example, we did a pretty sizable investment for, with our investor group in a mobile home park fund, right? Which is a counter-cyclical sort of recession light kind of product. So we're thinking about things like that. And I urge investors to as well, because real estate is cyclical, as we all know. So we want to provide opportunities that can provide value in those types of markets.
Yeah, I need a place for my double wide even if the market's not strong.
I might be able to help you out. We should talk.
That's right. And so they can check out the real estate to whatever degree that I guess that makes sense for the money they're investing, right?
Exactly.
Then what about checking out the sponsor? How might they do that?
So we share all of our sponsors for investors that are going to be investing in equity. We do background checks, criminal checks, credit checks, all as part of our due diligence process at realtymogul.com. And the sponsor also has the opportunity to talk directly to the sponsor, or the investor has the opportunity to talk directly to the sponsor. So one of the ways that we use technology, differently to do syndications online is by hosting a webinar for every one of our transactions. So the investor has the ability to ask questions. They have the ability to hear how the sponsor presents the transaction, because the sponsor is living and eating and breathing the transaction, right? They're spending time at the property. They're doing due diligence. All of this is sort of happening as we're raising capital. So it gives the investor that opportunity to have that one-on-one connection with the sponsor, even though it's virtual, right? They're not meeting them in person.
They're not meeting in person, but they're able to ask questions, and even though they might be a minimum investor.
Yep.
Okay, so what are some of the minimums you're seeing?
$10,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so anyone with $10,000 that can say they're an accredited investor can talk to the sponsor directly through the online program.
Absolutely.
And then after that, they pretty much deal with your company from there on.
Yeah, so we've got an asset management function where we're working directly with the sponsors after we've made the investment. And from both sides' perspective, from the sponsor's perspective, they're only dealing with one collective investor, Realty Mogul, and we're acting on behalf of all of our other underlying investors. And culturally, we take a lot of pride in that, right? And in being able to provide our investors with timely reporting, answer questions. If they want to pick up the phone and call us, we've got a whole team that is there strictly for the benefit of these private investors to keep them up to date on their investments.
I mean, you're not just a website with no phone number?
We are not. We've got real people too.
All right, and let's touch on some of the benefits for these retail investors. There's a lot of benefits, right? You're taking advantage of the capability of that sponsor, his connection, that he knows what he's doing, that he has the connections to put that deal together, right? You also have ability to diverse your portfolio, right? If you can invest as small as $10,000, you can invest in different property types in different areas, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of advantages. You also want to think about how long the deal might be in play, right?
Right.
Because it's not really liquid.
No, these are illiquid investments.
Yeah.
So, investors are in for the long haul. Different investment opportunities have different hold periods. You might see something as short as, a year or 2 years if it's going to be a quick reposition and sell. You might see transactions that the sponsor's intending to hold, 10 years or longer, and that the investor's looking to diversify their assets or create something similar to like a laddered bond portfolio where maybe you make a variety of different investments that have different expected hold periods, and that allows the investor to get broader diversification with their capital.
How about if they're looking at a loan, they're investing in a loan online, what kind of due diligence can they do?
Well, we provide all the information regarding the loan due diligence that we're providing, or that we're doing as underwriting the
So they're pretty much
transaction.
looking at what a bank would look at to do a loan?
Pretty much, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting to look at the sponsor information,
Yeah.
the asset information, on valuation and everything else. So it's, fixed, income typically, a little bit different analysis, but still a lot of the due diligence that you would get if you were actually underwriting and closing the loan from the lender side.
Yeah, and I guess you got to feel a little safer in that first position or second position and not being in the equity. Well, stay tuned. One of the things I've realized about crowdfunding is the sponsors don't know a lot about this. We're going to talk about the benefits for sponsors. Stay with us. I'm Michael Bull. We'll be right back.
The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty, a great place to do business. Xceligent, information for the professionals. And Commercial Search, properties for sale and lease. To access these companies or for additional videos, podcasts, and articles, visit CREshow.com.